Briahna Joy Gray flying in for this campaign. It must kind of be full circle for you because obviously you're on Bernie's campaign, and now Nina, I actually see a lot of same folks from Bernie's campaign here.
It's been like a giant family reunion in some respects. I didn't plan to come out today. I was in my apartment yesterday. I hadn't seen my family in a while. My family's from Cleveland. Everything was going down. I'm seeing everybody unite on the internet, and I said, screw it, last minute, bought a plane ticket 2 hours before takeoff and just landed last night. So it's been really exciting.
I hope you weren't in the airport for 8 hours like me.
Sort of got trapped.
Yeah.
Horrible.
No, they did not put my bag on the plane, but they worked it out. It's here now.
I wanted to ask you because honestly, we're seeing a lot of the same like national establishment playbook. Kind of not particularly, the opponents aren't particularly running on anything per se, other than Nina, I guess, wouldn't be a dutiful servant to the Democratic Party. I actually saw Chantel Brown's mother, who I'm sure is very lovely. She pointed out to a reporter that Bernie Sanders did not have a smile on his face during the inauguration. So I wanted to ask you.
It's actually a hilarious.
Yeah.
Made him go viral.
Yeah.
The most notable moment of the entire inauguration, in fact.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, it seems to me that might not work in a community that actually knows Nina Turner pretty well.
Yeah, so I went to church. Both Chantel Brown and Nina Turner were at the service. Jim Clyburn was at the service. Keith Ellison was at the service. Everybody, showed up, the mayor. And the pastor brought both women up onto stage and was really trying to emphasize that all of the kind of divisiveness that's happened in some of the ads, has to come to an end when the election is over. And at the end of the day, one of these two women is going to be, in Congress, and we should celebrate that fact. When I spoke to people in the audience, I was really curious to find out whether or not they were reading the division as the fault of one party or the other, if it was going to hurt one or the other more than. And what actually seemed to be the case was that while some people felt, one woman in particular said, I'm just not going to vote because it's too much. Like, it's too ugly. I have reasons to like each candidate, and this is just too much. I don't like it. When I pressed her a little bit more about her political beliefs, she said, well, I was going to support Bernie Sanders if he had made it through. I'm a Bernie Sanders voter, and my number one issue is Medicare for all. And I said, well, I think that you might have made your choice unwittingly, and I think that, I would talk to her about the dark money entering the race and how that had really colored the tone of the whole thing. And by the end of the conversation, she was like, you know what, I am going to vote. I was wrong to not want to vote. I'm going to vote. And I think that when I talk to some other community members, council members, their perception is that folks know Senator Turner. They've known her for a long time. They have a sense of what their local priorities are, and that Nina Turner is beholden to those local priorities and is savvy about them. And a lot of this kind of national interference isn't trickling through the same way, and that a lot of the local endorsements are going to go a lot farther. The Cleveland Plain Dealer, a lot of the people who the community knows. And I hope that's the case.
You mean James Clyburn doesn't rule the whole country? I wanted to ask you also because it seems to me Nina's ran on Medicare for all in an area that the national press has told us does not want socialism. You heard it nonstop on the campaign, but she's not hiding it. Television ads, mailers on the campaign trail. And I mean, the polling is kind of tough to tell, but it seems people are responding to it. Doesn't that kind of debunk what you were dealing with nationally?
Fun fact, when polled demographic by demographic, Black Americans support Medicare for all more than any other group. So I'm not especially surprised, Cleveland being a predominantly black city, that it is a popular issue here on the ground. Not to mention it's the poorest big city in America, and that tends to mean that people here are going to have some issues accessing health care, as they say. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. And like I said, this woman that I spoke to at the church this morning and several other people I've talked to here have raised health care as a primary concern. And I don't think that's going away. I don't think that genie's going back in the bottle, especially in the middle of a healthcare crisis where 15 million people lost their health insurance last year and really exposed the frailty of an employer-based system. I think that Senator Turner is smart and right to stick to the issues that Americans care about and not listen to corporate propaganda that tries to shame people out of being beholden to the interest of a working-class community.
And also, obviously, you've noticed there's quite a back and forth on the internet these days, healthy or unhealthy.
Let's go with unhealthy.
Yes, I wanted to ask you because, frankly, there's a lot of people that want to burn it down. Even Nina Turner is not progressive enough for them. I mean, you spent a lot of time with Nina Turner on the campaign trail. I assume you guys are fairly close. What's your message about Nina Turner particularly? Because we keep telling our viewers, like, if it's all hopeless, if they're all frauds, then why even engage?
I think that any elected representative is only going to be as good as the people who are continuing to push them and hold their feet to the fire. And no matter how much I personally like or want or am rooting for any given person to win or to get reelected going down the line, history shows us that our great movements and leaps forward in this country have come when there have been far left radical groups pushing harder than even where we've settled, right? So when you look at the history of the New Deal coalition, it wasn't just FDR coming out and saying, I think we should have a New Deal, and everybody agreed. There were far left radicals, communists saying, we want even more than this. We want more than this, and the New Deal was the compromise position. So if we're uncomfortable with there being people pushing progressives, even progressives that we know and love and like, then we're never going to get the most out of those elected representatives. We are doing them a service by continuing to hold their feet to the fire and offering counter pressure to the pressures that they will ultimately feel 100%. They will feel them when they are in Washington.
And lastly, we've been out on the road a lot. We hear everything's dandy. The jobs are roaring back. Things are getting back to normal. Today, I literally, as we speak, there's probably people being thrown to the streets. The eviction moratorium expired. Pelosi has now tweeted that the CDC can extend it. Before she said it was the Republicans' fault. You've talked a lot about, frankly, progressives' failure to organize in Congress, to leverage votes, to really back threats up with anything. What does it say to you that things are back to normal, but over 11 million today are facing eviction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really perverse kind of cruelty to try to gaslight the American public in that way and to use a progressive brand or a Democratic Party brand to shield yourself from really warranted criticism. This isn't a team sport. This isn't a blame game. Democrats, at the end of the day, control both houses of Congress and the presidency. And at a certain point, leadership has to be about accountability as well. And we are about to head into a midterm season where there are a lot of promises that have been reneged on. People accuse progressives of doing Green Lantern theory and having magical thinking about what Joe Biden can and cannot do, but the reality is that Joe Biden isn't living up to his own campaign promises at this stage. People were promised recurring $2,000 checks, people were promised student debt cancellation, and people were promised, HBCUs in particular, were promised that their student debt would be canceled, and none of that has happened. And people who have organized from the ground have said and made it clear, we are not going to be able to get people to turn out again once we've lied to them in this blatant fashion. And this is an opportunity for Democrats to actually show that they're worth something and they can follow through and show some real material gains for people. And if they don't, we'll know where the fault lies very clearly.
Bad Faith Podcast, Briahna Joy Gray, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan. It's really nice to be with you.
You can find it.
Bad Faith Podcast, you can find us on YouTube or patreon.com/Bad Faith Podcast. Wherever you catch us, we really appreciate you tuning in.